6 AI agents, each built with a unique edge. Miko, AI, Team Leader. Ori AI, Fundamental Analyst. Exi, AI, Technical Analyst. Mesa, AI, Risk Management Specialist. Fenwa, AI Market Sentiment Analyst. And Naledi AI, the cryptocurrency expert. Together, they're engineered to protect, guide, and transform your trading. The future of trading is here. Experience Zentrix AI. 6 AI agents, each built with a unique edge. Miko, AI, Team Leader. Ori AI, Fundamental Analyst. Exi, AI, Technical Analyst. Mesa, AI, Risk Management Specialist. Fenwa, AI Market Sentiment Analyst. And Naledi AI, the cryptocurrency expert. Together, they're engineered to protect, guide, and transform your trading. The future of trading is here. Experience Zentrix AI.
Okay, what's up people? Welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone is doing well. As always guys, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you do hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. And of course, make sure you share it with your friends, helps the channel grow. So I do really appreciate it if you are enjoying the content. Show some love and it is appreciated. But what is up guys? Welcome back to another stream. Follow the trend. What's up my man? Hope you are well. So as always guys, we'll check out some USD business, see what's going on with the dollar, see what's going on with USD majors, gold and silver. We do have some interesting news coming out later this afternoon, so one eye on that. But of course, we did have some news yesterday, didn't really cause too much noise in the market, but we'll take a look to see what the damage is done. And hopefully find some opportunities. Of course, if you do have any pairs you want me to take a look at, drop it in the chat and we shall discuss any trades, any positions, any ideas or any questions related to trading. Stick it in the chat and we shall discuss. But first things first, let's take a look at the DXY. So it looks like USD is finding strength and basically is holding to the low of that range. We did come back for a retest, and that did happen yesterday afternoon. Looks like that push, I think that was coming into the news. Yeah, this cannot open before the news, but the news came in and we did see price bounce that low. So it looks to me that we have got that fake out. Oh, completely missed it there. Looks to me that we have got that fake out and price has now come back for the retest, and now looks like potentially we're seeing the continuation of that. And if that is the case, then there's a good chance we could be pushing to the high of the range, which is floating around 98.6 roughly. Now, price is still respecting to demand zones to the left here. Again, I haven't really been convinced about the buying opportunities, especially with the way the market has been failing at highs. And I kind of still do expect us to bleed. I kind of do expect us to see more downside. I'm looking at the weekly chart. I'm still not convinced with all these wicks we've seen on the weekly time frame, especially taking into consideration the prior support we had, taking that into account, it's acting as resistance, and the numerous wicks we printed in this zone really does, tell a story that price has been struggling at this area. Of course, we could break through, but it's going to take a lot of energy, a lot of strength. I don't know, maybe CPI could provide that, but it's going to take a hell of a move for us to actually break through this zone and see some more upside, which is why I've been bearish, why I'm expecting price to see more downside. But of course, after the behavior we've seen this week, we did get the breakout, but that was quickly put to bed. And now price is back within the range. It does make things very awkward to take any selling opportunities. The next best sell opportunity will occur, back at highs, back at the top of the range. That's really where you want to do your business for a short. This is all bullish territory, especially after the fake out now and price reconfirming that support as support. So yeah, intraday things are looking pretty bullish. If you are looking at opportunities on the lower time frames, especially if you can see some strength this afternoon through the high this would look like a nice opportunity to go in long and follow that momentum. So going forward with DXY, I would be intraday bullish at least. Of course, that could change with CPI. And to be honest, I'm not really looking at opportunities in regard to USD anyway. I'm kind of just standing off, especially from a swing bias. I'm kind of just standing off and waiting for price to make its move. I may consider shorts at the high there or some buys for Euro, which we'll get into a second. But the market is still flat, range bound for me. In terms of Euro USD, pretty much the exact opposite. Didn't really see the retest in the same kind of manner as the DXY. Did find some nice wicks to the upside, but it looks like resistance is still holding there for Euro. So again, there's your breakout. There's your fake out as price comes back inside the range. It looks like we've got the retest and potentially could see some downside. Not quite convinced about the shorts, which is why I'm not jumping into anything. We could see very much a push below the range, but I'm not quite convinced. I'm not quite convinced with the move. And of course, we look to our left, price is still just about respecting this area of supply, which is kind of similar to what the DXY is doing. So we are respecting supply. Price did have the fake resistance. There are a lot of signs that do point in a bearish direction for Euro and a bullish direction for dollar, but not to the quality or the standard of what I want to see in terms of finding any opportunities. Again, I do trade fake outs, but I'm just not convinced by this one just yet. And I wouldn't mind picking up some longs down at the lows here. Solid level support. Of course, the overall trend is still bullish, so that is still a big factor at play. Maybe we are going through a reversal, but still early to tell. I think if price was to break through that, then yeah, I would definitely shift bearish and start looking for a push to these lows and probably further. I'm still not quite convinced yet. So yeah, we're back in the range. So this is back in a territory which I don't really want to operate in. So from a personal point of view, if I'm looking at this for my analysis and my trading opportunities, I'd pretty much just move on from Euro. We're trapped within the range. Yes, it looks like we've got the retest. So intraday, I think we can see some downside. We'll see what CPI has in store. But again, I don't really see a tradable move here, especially from a swing bias on Euro dollar on the 4-hour chart. I missed pound USD. In terms of pound USD, again, for this one, I said I was keeping an eye on some shorting opportunities at the high here. I do like them. If price could maybe spike through the high in a similar manner to how we spiked through the low, I think that could be a very interesting sell opportunity. Position yourself well, stops above the high, could see a nice move down. If, of course, we do see the breakout, well, then the buys are very much on, and we're looking for a push all the way to the swing high here at 1.37863. So no matter the play, there really is a nice opportunity in both directions. Of course, if USD is going to be strong, that should push pound USD lower. We are rejecting resistance. Like I said, I would want to spike through, but you don't always get what you wish for, unfortunately. But yeah, it looks like price is respecting resistance. We are seeing a bit of a downturn. Do I see any opportunities in this area? No, not really an area which I want to get involved in. You could argue that market's kind of spiked through this high, retest it, and now seeing some strength from the bears. I would rather focus my attention right at the high here rather than this area, but still looks like price is holding as resistance, and again could see a bit of a drop there. So pound USD, again, for me in terms of opportunities, this is where I want to do my business, whether we're looking at a retest of the highs and a push lower, or we're looking at a breakout and prices moving higher, and then we can speak about a push to the high there. But yeah, the way I see it, pound's still stuck in a range. And as long as we fluctuate, I'm not really looking to do too much apart from call tops, call bottoms, or wait for breakouts. As for dollar CAD, it looks like that supply zone has well and truly been broken through. Price is now trading comfortably above that zone. So it looks like this is now my area of focus for dollar CAD. I said if this area doesn't hold, I will shift my bias to that area up there. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So if price can respect this well, I'm still interested for the shorts for dollar CAD and still looking to see if I can catch a high here. I like how price is seeing really aggressive momentum as we get these rallies. So as you can see, nice rally over there. Really aggressive push down. Another rally over there. Really aggressive push down. Kind of looking to see if we can do that for a third time. And if I can time my entry well, hopefully catch a nice move down. And again, maybe dollar CAD does push these lows, but if we are still seeing new highs, I've got to be careful. Price could easily still put another higher low in and still go against me. So that's up to my trade management. But I still do think dollar CAD has room to the downside. As I've said, the areas which price is respecting, very key resistance here. As long as price doesn't break above this area, I still do have that longer term bearish bias that we're going to sell off from here, roll back to lows, and probably a lot further. So I'm still actively looking for shorts. I like where we're trading the higher time frames. Now that supply zone is not holding, the highs up here become my area of focus. So yeah, looking for a bit more upside for dollar CAD, at least to come and test 1.39250 more or less. And now I'll see what type of opportunities I can get at the highs. But like I said, I like how price is moving. I like the structure. I like the momentum we're seeing as we take out highs, really aggressive. So I do think if we do that again, I'll be looking for similar signs, and that again could give us a really nice move down. Aussie dollar also trading at an interesting area, which again I'm keeping an eye on some shorts. We have spiked through the high there. I'm kind of looking for a slightly more exaggerated move before shorting, but I am looking at an idea of taking some lows, taking some shorts off. I don't know why I said lows. Taking some shorts off the highs here. Again, Aussie dollar really corrected market, so I'm not quite convinced with this uptrend. So I don't mind the idea of taking shorts. It is a bit counter trend. It is a bit going against the grain. So there is that component to it, the more aggressive nature. But I like where I'm positioned, and if I can get a stop loss above the high here, I think I'm well positioned for that trade. And of course, if things do go well, expecting leads to push to this area, there is a possibility of a push all the way down there as well. So there is definitely risk reward opportunities. But as I said, I want a bit more of an exaggerated move higher, similar to one we got here. You can see how price took out that double top, slightly more exaggerated move, came back down. Very nice selling opportunity. I'm looking to see if price can kind of repeat that at the high, and then see if I can take a short off that area, 0.66250. So Aussie dollar definitely on the watch list, dollar CAD on the watch list as well. Of course, slightly different ideas because they're both trading USD in the opposite direction. So in this case, we're kind of looking to capitalize on USD strength. Dollar CAD's more so looking to capitalize on USD weakness. One would be right, of course. But again, the entry and how price gets, then how we maneuver will really help justify the trade. If one's not looking good, I'll focus on the other one. And of course, if neither looking good, I won't trade neither. But I like the location there and keeping an eye on some shorts there for Aussie dollar. In terms of New Zealand dollar is still interesting. It's still an area which we could sell off. We are still struggling at highs here. We did kind of break through the channel, but again, channels are only reference points. They're not the be all or end all of a directional market structure. We are still very consistent with these lower highs, 1, 2, 3. This still could be a fourth, even though it's kind of broken out of that channel to a degree. But fake outs do exist, as we saw with the DXY as well. So there could be some shorts here for New Zealand dollar. I would say a more convincing close, maybe breaking through support here, could actually end up being a nice entry. So let's say if momentum picks up, a strong close below that, entries there. Could either have stop losses above the high or above the breakout there, depending how aggressive you want to be. And potentially some targets into these areas or potentially into the lows. If we are going to form a lower high, this would be the place to do it. If, of course, price was to rally and break structure here, then that would put an end to that bearish structure completely. But that is not the case yet, and there could still be another sell-off there for New Zealand dollar. So keeping an eye on that. Not my favorite opportunity. I'd rather short Aussie dollar. It's more of a significant area. And if we are going to sell off, I think this could be a bigger move. It would be nice to spike high. I might attempt shorting earlier if I see some nice momentum, but I really do want price to push on. In terms of gold, yeah, gold's interesting. Gold was seeing some downside. Looks like price is breaking support. Altogether, still looks very corrective to me, so I'm still very much in the bullish mindset. If I drop to the hourly chart, yesterday I talked about two areas for a buy. I talked about this consolidation, as price could potentially come back to retest that, and then we might see price continue. Or we could look at price taking out this low here and then seeing the continuation. And that could be the play still. Of course, price is spiking through. This candle's still live. It still has 37 minutes before it does close. This could pull back and leave a really nice wick. Or, of course, it could continue and close really bearish. So, need to monitor that. But essentially, I'm looking at somewhat of a bull flag opportunity here. So, if we can find support here and push back above this low, I think that could be a very nice entry. If not, then there is this demand zone, which again still can give us a nice entry. I'm not bearish yet for gold at any stage just yet. Momentum is still with the buyers. Yes, we're seeing some strength to the downside, but it's still relatively corrective. And again, you're not going to see gold just fly to the upside continuously. There will be pullbacks, there will be dips, and this is what I'm looking at as the next dip. Until I see some really aggressive momentum, maybe smashing through this area like that, that might be something to be a bit skeptical of, but for now, still like the buy. So I'll still concentrate to see what we can do at this low here. I think this is a smart place to position yourself long. Just need to wait for that rejection to come into play. If not, then you do have a very nice demand zone just floating below 3,600. I think that's a smart place for a buy as well. And in terms of silver, yeah, silver's still flat, so the buys aren't looking as good. I would suggest we're just still stuck in a range. So if you're going to look to buy silver, it's very much looking to buy low and sell high. So I would suggest if price can move back to the low of the range, spike through the low, that could be a nice place for a buy, simply just to take it back to resistance. Maybe price breaks out, maybe it doesn't. But we did have a very nasty fail over here, so that does show that we are failing at highs and momentum is starting to stall. Of course, we've got a bit of a consolidation to show for that as well. But in terms of a buy, this is where you'll be well positioned for it. Taking some buys in and around this area here is just asking for a bit of trouble. Not that you won't take a winning position. Of course, you can win anywhere, but I would say that's where the most noise is, and that's where a lot of congestion, and you'll see random wicks which could take you out for unnecessary losing positions. Whereas if you can get a position here, you'll have a safer stop loss, be in a better position, probably a better issue back to resistance as well. And of course, if you do get a breakout, you'll be well positioned to take advantage of that too. So I think that's where you will be better off finding entries and then waiting for price to get to. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with gold and silver, and of course the USD pairs. Looks to me that we are seeing some USD strength come into play. I quite like Aussie dollar shorts. I still like dollar CAD shorts. Keep an eye on pound USD. Euro I'm not a big fan of. And I think the intraday buys on gold actually look really good as well. Just waiting for momentum to properly shift, and there could be some nice trades. Anywho, welcome to the stream, ladies and gents. Okay, so where was I? Matt, what's up? Welcome to the stream. BTC had a good go yesterday. Glad I hedged. Nice, yeah. Yeah, we did see some strength for BTC, didn't we? Price did see some upside. BTC is looking interesting. We can go through that in a second. Follow the trends. Okay, instant gold buys, nice. Stop loss 36.10. Okay, we can take a look at that as well. I think we might have a similar idea on gold. Doctor, it's definitely downside. Yeah, I agree. Where price is positioned, I quite like the sells for Aussie dollar as well. I do like the sells, and of course, if USD is going to see some strength, that should help out Aussie dollar pushing down. But where we're positioned, I like it. I like the rejection we're seeing. So I am actively looking for entries to short Aussie dollar as well. Good morning, Yusuf. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. I am well. Thank you for asking. Yusuf, yes, we could take a look at Aussie CAD. Buys 0.164. Sure. We can take a look. Mateus FX, Euro. Yep, we could take a look as well. Okay, Euro GU, Euro NZD, Pound NZD. Okay, no problem. we can take a look. Okay, first, let me get the link for the form. Okay. So if you guys aren't aware, we are running a competition on our perps platform. It's still available for you guys to enter and drop your email if you haven't done so already. I'm just getting the link for you. There we go. So yeah, if you haven't checked out the form yet, drop your email if you want to participate. Again, it's a bit of fun, nothing serious, just a bit of fun to get people using the platform, and there will be cash prizes for the best traders there as well. So if you do perform well, you do get a nice reward. But the platform itself, very easy to use. I do have a video explaining how to use it and how to get started. So if you do want to check that out, go to my channel. There is a full video giving you a walkthrough how to get started, how to set up, and how the components of the platform work. But this is a platform which will allow you to trade perps. At the moment, only cryptocurrencies are available. So the competition, again, will be trading cryptocurrencies. But other markets like FX, commodities, indices will be coming to the platform very, very soon. So do look out for that. And of course, if you do have any Solana or Ethereum wallet, you can directly connect to the platform and trade from your wallet in a demo or a live environment. And if you don't have a wallet, you can also connect via your email, which is at the top over there as well. And of course, the platform, the unique feature is the AI assistance here, Miko AI, funny enough, but that will help with some guidance, will provide some risk sentiment analysis on the market. It will provide full-hour setups if there are any as well. And it's a nice component to have that additional feature, because sometimes you do need that extra kind of element to your trading to provide some unbiased thoughts on a market. And having that AI feature, which will kind of give you, the honest reflection of the data it does digest, will add a different component to your game. So a nice feature to look into and get used to. So if you haven't checked it out, guys, the link is at the top of the chat. And if you are interested to participate in the trading challenge, the form is below. But anyway, guys, let's take a look at some pairs. We'll start with BTC. We'll go through gold and Aussie CAD, Euro, Pound, etc., etc. What's up, DMR? Welcome to the stream. Hope you are well. So let's take a look at BTC. So I'm pretty sure we did see some upside for Bitcoin. We did. Still looking quite corrective though, so I'm not overly excited by this up move. If price was to explode high and really see some upside and create some distance between that resistance it broke out and current price, that would be something to really consider, because a breakout like that to me would show that, okay, the buyers have entered and we're likely to see a continuation of that, and that itself could probably take us back to highs, back to resistance, maybe new all-time highs as well. But a push back to that level there, I think, would look very likely at that point. At the moment now, I'm not quite convinced on that move. It still looks quite corrective. I wouldn't be surprised if we still do roll over. Although it does look like price is breaking through this key level, it's not unheard of for us to break back below it. So just because price has seen that breakout doesn't, remove us out of the woods completely. We could still see price come crashing back down. And especially since we are quite corrective, I wouldn't be too surprised if that was to happen. So BTC, yes, seeing some upside, but not quite convinced. Still very corrective, and we could easily see price come back down again. I think this is a very important counter trend line to keep an eye on, because if that does break, then I think the odds of us coming back to lows are pretty high, and we do see this bearish trend continue. If price is going to be bullish and continue, then you want to see those higher lows sustain, possibly another push back into the trend line could provide some nice buying opportunities to get involved and take that higher. Or of course, potentially a breaking retest of the high as well. That could be a smart place to position yourself long and take advantage of a move higher. 116.900 could be a nice target initially. Of course, potentially that could be a secondary target, a pushback to highs, but that would also, of course, be a significant area to target as well. But yeah, I'm not quite convinced with BTC in terms of this bullish move. It is still quite corrective. So I wouldn't be surprised if price does come back down. The key thing that would keep me bullish is price staying above the counter trend line. If we were to break through that, then as I said, I do think price will probably push back to lows. So I'll be quite watchful of that. But yeah, definitely a nice move down BTC. Need a bit more strength for me to be really kind of confident with that bullish bias. But so far, things still look quite corrective, and I'm not a big fan of the price action altogether, really. So yeah, waiting for a bit more development on BTC. I don't really have a clear-cut bias for this one either. Of course, the market overall is bullish, so by default, I would be bullish on BTC. And if I'm looking for a buy, I think the best opportunity for a buy probably would be another push to the lows and some opportunities around there. Altogether, coming back into a nice area of demand, major support, that still would be the best place for me to position myself long, rather than trying to get involved in these areas. Unless you're looking for a short-term move, I can understand that. But from a swing bias, especially if you're trying to catch maybe the next low of BTC, 107 could be a smart place to at least catch a reaction. We might not catch the low, but I do think that's an area which we're likely to bounce from. So that's still kind of my take there for Bitcoin. And that will be the first kind of major target. What's up, CS Integrated? Welcome to the stream. Hope you are doing good. Okay, so yeah, we'll take a look at gold. Follow the trend, said you got a buy position on that one. 36.22. Targeting 36.60. So 36.22 would be around this low here. 36.60, looking for a push more or less back to the highs. Stop loss 36.10 underneath the low there. Yeah, I like it as well. So I think this is a smart place for a buy. I said yesterday, these are the two areas which I think the buys look the best. Price at this low here, looking for a turnaround, or of course price coming back to that demand zone. At the moment, actually, if I drop to the 30-minute chart, how are we doing? Yeah, so this is really the area which you could see price fluctuate and potentially shift in direction. So this would be a smart place for an entry. And the way I see it, price looks like it's in a bit of a bull flag pattern. So there's your impulse, there's your continuation, that's your first move, that's your second move. And this is where you do want to see price shift and become bullish. So it is important to see how the next probably 2-3 candles do close on the hourly chart. Next few candles on the 30-minute chart do close. But in terms of where your stop loss is, I think it's well placed. You give yourself some nice room at that low. I think entry in a smart place as well, 36.22, right at the low there as well. Targets make some sense. You're looking at a pretty decent risk reward opportunity as well on that move. So I quite like it. I quite like it, to be honest. This is pretty much what I was referring to in terms of the setup yesterday. If I was looking to trade, I probably would look at the hourly chart for entries. And I probably would wait for a strong close, but I would... I would bet that you're probably looking at more of an intraday chart for your entries there, but nonetheless still in the same similar location and basing the the trade that price will turn at that low. So yeah, I do quite like what I'm seeing here with gold. That is definitely an area which I do expect price to at least see some buyers enter the market, and maybe any early buyers who enter the market here will be looking to get liquidated at the moment, and then potentially might use that to our advantage. So that is definitely an area of interest for now with gold, and this also could be one as well, 35.95 if that was to fail. In terms of Aussie CAD, so Aussie CAD, let me look at the bigger picture. Okay, so yesterday's candle did close really well. It looks like it's breaking out that resistance. I'm not quite. Yeah, I mean Aussie CAD is a choppy pair, so I wouldn't actively looking to try and keep looking to buy. I would be expecting pullback soon, unless you're looking for very short-term moves. I don't mind that because you're still taking advantage of what the current price is doing, which is showing, of course, a lot of momentum. But I would be careful with that. So if I drop to the 15-minute chart, which I assume is the chart you're looking to trade, $0.9164. So basically at this low here. So if you're looking for entries there, I mean, in terms of the market structure, in terms of the trend, it looks really healthy. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I just would be quite cautious and considerate of targets. So this is clearly a level of support. I mean, at the moment, price is basically ranging. I think a nice entry would, if price could actually spike through the low and recover it, that would be a nice entry. As you can see, price has already had some very aggressive wicks to the downside. We formed this wick over here initially. We tried to spike for it, didn't quite happen. It would be nice if we could do that, take out these two lows, and then potentially use that to our advantage. And of course, targets back at the top end of consolidation, but maybe the highs there as well. Maybe we do continue. But Aussie CAD is a choppy pair, and because we have seen such a significant move on the daily chart, I wouldn't get too carried away with that momentum. We are going to top out pretty soon, and all you have to do is just look at what price does in general. You know, we don't normally see sustained moves for too long. Not to say that this trend can't continue, not to say that we can't see another bullish day. Of course we can. But I wouldn't be looking for anything too crazy. And let's say if we do catch a buy at that low and price does manage to get to the high here, I would suggest looking to close most of the profits, you know, by the time you do get there. Or at least, you know, protect yourself in some way. So yeah, I do think it's a smart place for a trade. You know, you're still seeing a lot of momentum, so the trend is still very strong. So the buys do make sense. But again, it's more so, okay, we're seeing a lot of momentum. There might still be a bit more, you know, juice to squeeze from this trend, but be cautious at highs. If price does start to reject, it's probably a sign to at least manage the trade in some way. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to exit the full position, but I would look at trying to manage that in some way. But yeah, I do agree. I do agree with the opportunity. But the probability of retracement, I do think, is pretty high. So be watchful of that. Anyway, in terms of euro, pound, we can take a look at those next. Pound NZD, euro NZD, yes, we can take a look as well. Remy looking for gold buys as well. Yeah, I think gold buys looks good. I like how price is correcting. Still seeing very kind of choppy, bearish momentum. Not really seeing any significant bearish pressure. So that down move to me just looks like a pullback and looks like price is likely still to see upside. Of course, things can change, but at this moment in time, I would suggest that bearish move we're seeing is just a pullback for price to go higher. CS integrated. Okay, bullish on the DXY. If it stays 97.941 and above 98.172, okay. Okay, we can take a look at that as well. Okay, let me go through euro. Hopefully that made sense on Aussie CAD, by the way. So yeah, for Euro USD, I'm not the biggest fan favorite of euro at the moment. I mean, it looks like price is basically just faked the high and now is closing back below the high of the range. So if that's the case, then it does look like we could see a sell-off back to the lower end and just see price continue to fluctuate the range. Now, looking at the higher time frames with euro, the trend is still up. So by default, you kind of have a bullish bias, but we are trading into some bearish structure if we look to the left, and this is our supply zone, which of course gave us that momentum. And we can see prices respecting that pretty well, and especially taking into consideration the fake out, strong close above, strong close back below. We are seeing some weakness at the moment right now. So going forward with euro, I would suggest if you're looking for opportunities, looking for entries, shorts look the best, and this is really where you want to position yourself in a trade. If you can get some entries in this area, some stops above the high, and then looking to try and take advantage of the range or halfway or however you see fit, that would make the most sense. Right now we're looking pretty bearish. We're at lows. This is not really an area which I want to get involved at. especially as we head closer to the middle of the range. That's where the most noise will be, and that's just not the area in which I want to position myself and look for any entries or stop loss placements. This is more so the area. So the way I see it, prices had that fake out. As long as we don't start, suddenly rally through the high and see some momentum, of course that could happen. Maybe CPI does give us some weakness, but for now, following the technicals, as long as we stay below 1.173, I do think we're likely to sell off here for euro. I'm personally staying away. I'm not a big fan of the price action. I think other USD pairs look a lot easier to trade. Aussie dollar, even New Zealand dollar, even pound, even dollar CAD. All of those pairs look a lot easier to trade in my opinion, or more setting up to how I want them to, and to how my trading style does operate. So euro dollar, things do look bearish. That is the fake out. You're likely to see a move in the opposite direction to the direction of the fake out. And as price is now back within the range, we could just see price make a push to the low. So if I was to drop to the 15-minute chart, I don't really see much of an opportunity here, to be honest. I mean, price is just sweeping through the lows there. Would I be looking to try and buy here? No. It's not really operating at any area of significance. Like I said, the high of the range is where I want to position myself, trying to find some buys or selling opportunities within this area. Again, you may be able to take advantage of that, but I think this is just an area where price fluctuates a lot, and I really wouldn't want to be looking for any opportunities in that particular zone. So euro, not seeing much of an opportunity, to be honest. 15-minute chart, lower time frames, not seeing much of an opportunity. Yes, we may bounce here, but I wouldn't be looking for a sustained move. It's just not an area which I want to look to try and push and find some entries and try and do any business. As I said, the highs and the low, whilst we're in that range, is where I want to focus my efforts. Okay, yeah, we can take a look at pound USD as well. CPI and euro and GU. I don't really have much of an opinion, to be honest. I'm also just waiting to see what CPI does bring, and then I'll look to make my judgments afterwards. Again, I'm not trying to predict news events. It's just a waste of time, really. Unless you can kind of form an edge with the bias, with the news release itself, then you're kind of just going to be, most of the time, it's just going to be 50-50, really. And I'm not really one to try and exclusively trade a news event. So with CPI, I'm just waiting to see what CPI does. I'm not in any positions at the moment, although Aussie dollar looks quite likely to set up, so I might find myself in a short on Aussie dollars soon, but I don't really have too much thoughts about it. I'm also just looking to what CPI does when it is released. How does the DXY react? How do these pairs react? Now I help set my bias up maybe for the next week or two. But at the moment, I wouldn't try and predict anything coming to the CPI, just asking for a lot of trouble if you're trying to just get in before the CPI to trade it. No problem, follow the trend, happy to help. Okay, so we'll take a look at pound USD. So pound, again, I like what we're doing at the high over here. Well, I don't really do much there. I would like to see if price can get there. I do think that would be a smart place for a sell. Equally, how we came back to the low of this level and had a really nice bounce and a really nice move to the upside, and kind of looking for price to repeat that pattern back at resistance, or of course give us the breakout. That would be equally as good, and then that will take us back to the high. But of course DXY is going to have a big role to play in that. But the way I see pound USD right now is that we're stuck in a range. You got the highs, you got the lows, and price has essentially been fluctuating between the two. So if you're looking for opportunities, similar to what I mentioned with euro, you want to be focusing at the highs, want to be focusing at the lows. In the middle is the no-go zone. Sure, there might be some intraday opportunities on some pullbacks, similar to how we kind of had this push, pullback, push, pullback, push on the way up. That was a pretty clean move up. We might see something similar on the way down, but you can also see things can get very congested and things can get very choppy. And if you do start to see price fluctuate and get noisy, you do really want to stay away from trading within these ranges. As I always say, the highs and the lows is where you want to do your business. But we are seeing some momentum to the downside. And if I drop intraday, things are looking relatively interesting. Looks like we're starting to see some bearish structure come into play, and there could be some more shorting opportunities for that to follow. So I would keep an eye on pound. There could be some shorts on the lower time frames. I would suggest this area could be an area to focus on. We just made some new lows there, and I do think price can potentially pull back into that zone and continue. Depends how we pull back and how we react first. I wouldn't suggest jumping into anything straight away, but if we do get a healthy pullback with healthy entries, this could be a smart place for a trade, especially from a 15 kind of 30-minute perspective. Just looking for price to basically bounce off the high of the range and now see a push towards the low. Again, I don't advise getting into opportunities in this area, but I can see the logic behind it. And because there is some nice momentum in the market, it's not the worst trade opportunity like it was back over here where things were just really, really choppy. I'm still very much focused at the highs and lows, more so from a swing bias, but intraday there could be some opportunities to follow that momentum lower. So yeah, pound USD, that's more or less where I'm at. Not trying to force anything. If we can run higher, I would like the opportunities back at 1.359. Okay, so next we can take a look at Euro NZD and Pound NZD. No problem, happy to help. Okay, LFTJ and some GJ sells, nice. We shall take a look at that as well. Yeah, GJ's just been bouncing off the high, hasn't it? Hasn't really seen too much progression, so calling the tops has been the best way to trade it. Okay, so Euro NZD. So this market is still bullish overall. We are still very much in a bullish trend. We're still seeing higher highs and higher lows, but is it still a market which I want to keep buying? Yes, but I have to be careful because price did make some new highs here and had a very strong reaction. And this trend has been going on for some time. And in FX, we don't tend to trend forever. We normally do trend for a decent chunk and then price will reverse. Of course, sometimes we will get those exaggerated trends where price will go for quite some time. And this could be one of those times. But the trend is looking quite tired now. And I will be quite careful. We are coming back to some nice areas of support where we could bounce from. You know, we've got prior resistance here, will be turn support, trading in a nice area of demand. This is a bullish zone. This is an area where we could see price have a push up. And for the most part, this looks like a really corrective leg to me. So I do think we can see a push up, but I would be careful with targets. I do think as price approaches these kind of areas, 1.98, we very well could form another lower high and price could come back down against you. So I do think this is a nice place for a buy. I'm not quite convinced for the entries just yet. This is our first bounce. Maybe if we can push up, come back, double bottom, maybe a nice wick through the zone, that could end up being a nice buy. But I would worry that price would go on to form another lower high. So I would be careful with that. Of course, price could rally back to highs, we can't see into the future, but that would be something I'll keep the tabs on. I wouldn't just blindly hold all the way back to highs with that anticipation because I know where we're trading. I know that the market's quite overextended. We could easily see price pull back deeper. But this is still a smart place for a buy. You can see significant resistance on the left now turn support. You've got a nice area of demand backing that area there too. If you're looking for a buy, this is the place for it. So yeah, I would suggest maybe wait for a double bottom, really confirm support, maybe wick through the low. That'll be a nice added confidence to the position. And then push back into 1.98, I think could be at least a nice initial target, even if you are looking for the bigger swing. That's an area which you could look to lock in some gains, or at least manage the position in some way, somehow. Pound NZD, similar as well. This one is also testing a nice area of resistance, now turns support. So as we can see, significant resistance there, taking that across, now going to act as support. You've got major resistance at the highs there. So in a similar situation, in terms we've seen, again, a lovely uptrend, but I do think the market is quite overextended. We're failing at highs, which is, again, not a good sign. You want price to rip through highs and see new highs. But the fact is we came back into resistance and price really did struggle there. So now it looks like price is, it could be forming a double top. It's still too early to say if that is the case, but we are failing at highs. So again, if we're going to keep looking to buy this, we need to take that into account, which means we're not going to be so overly confident with a push to highs. Yes, it could happen, but you want to be watchful of that. And we are being very consistent with these low highs here as well. I could see a world where we do put another one in and price does push lower. So I do think this is a smart place for a bounce for pound NZD. In terms of entries, I wouldn't say we're looking brilliant just yet. I like the wicks we're seeing, but price is still quite tired, quite fatigued. Maybe if you can push down one more time and see a strong close, that could be a nice entry in itself. Then yeah, first targets back into resistance with the trend line. If you can get a break of that, things could be looking very good. Perhaps we do see price continue. If we do start to stall, see some wicks, rejection, could even look to close the trade early or book some partials or trail stops. But that is an area which I would keep a close eye on. So pound NZD, I'm not necessarily convinced about a swing back to highs. Yes, the market is bullish, and yes, we'll come into key areas. So I do agree there's a nice buy opportunity here, but I'm not convinced with a swing back to highs necessarily, and the trend just continuing. So yeah, that's my kind of take on pound NZD and euro NZD. Okay, so we'll take a look at pound yen next for LFTJ. No problem, Yusuf. I do have, you can buy a challenge with elevating traders. If you pass the challenge, you will get a funded account. I'm not going to fund your account directly because I don't even know you. But if you are wanting to access more capital, a great way is to pass a challenge and get funded. That way you can kind of be assured that you have the skills and the risk management in process to keep the account as well. So if you're interested, head over to Elevating Traders. You can purchase an account over there. But let's take a look at pound yen. So LFTG said you are currently short. The way I see price right now is stuck in a range. So if I'm going to do anything with pound yen, it's going to be shorting the highs or buying the lows. It's not really a pair on my watch list, so I'm not actively looking to trade it. But if I was, that is what the shebang would be. So 199.850, your entry would be around there, and that's 49, but more or less 50. And targets 99 to 20. Okay, not looking for much. I'm guessing you are short on a intraday time frame here. Is this a trade like on a 50-minute chart, or let me know. But yeah, entries in that area, looking for a swing there. So you're just looking for a short-term move. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest, just because of how messy the market is. I'd rather try my luck at the highs here than here. Not to say that you can't see the move and you can't see a push down, but this would be an area which I would suggest that sells I'll be a bit more comfortable with, just because price is higher up. This to me just looks really, really noisy, which can actually play into your advantage, because as price continues to fluctuate, you're likely to see price reject resistance. So that would play into your hand. We're not necessarily like in a trending environment. So the fact that price is very up and down means that resistance does reject and support does reject more often than not. But just because of how choppy things are, I would like to see if I can get some entries here, because some stops above the high I would feel pretty safe with. Not that I won't be immune. Price could definitely run through my highs and run through my stop loss if it wanted to, but price would have to work harder to do that. So that's kind of where I would personally look to try and place my bets. But I can see where price is coming into, kind of looking more of a double top. We got some areas of supply and resistance to the left, so it does make sense for some shorts. I would assume your stop loss is probably above the highs here somewhere, 199, 900, maybe near 200. So that would make sense. But yeah, my interest would be slightly higher up before shorting pound yen. But yeah, if price can reject this area, there is some room to the downside. And that would be a sensible place for a take profit as well, because that's where we're seeing price, of course, rally from, at least in this last case as well. So I think targets make sense. Entries do make sense, but I would have rather to enter higher up. That would be my personal preference there. And price is slowly putting in these higher lows, so I would be careful with that. Yes, elevating traders had for about a year now. Well, yeah, coming up to a year. You can check it out, just elevatingtraders.com. Plenty of challenges, different types of challenges you could choose from. Aussie dollar 5-minute business. Okay, I can take a look at Aussie dollar on the 5-minute. I'm interested in Aussie dollar, but not so much the 5-minute, but I can take a look for you. DJ Gaming, Swiss Yen, no problem. We can take a look. Michelle, good morning. Hope you're doing good. We can take a look at that as well too. Did I just say we can take a look at good morning as well? That is funny. Okay, so I'll go through Swiss Yen. Actually, I'll go through Aussie dollar on the 5-minute. I am looking to short Aussie dollar where we are trading. I haven't quite got the confirmation just yet, so I'm holding off, but I like where we're trading, I like how we're trading. So it is definitely a market which I'm looking to get involved. It's a bit awkward because we do have CPI coming out this afternoon. Do I really want to get into the trade before CPI? Probably not, especially because it's only going to be like an hour or two before. So preferably I'd wait for CPI to come into play and then look for opportunities afterwards, which probably allow me to dodge a bullet if there is one to dodge. But yeah, based on where we're positioned, I quite like the shorts here for Aussie dollar. Similar to what we did over here, how we kind of took out the high and came back down pretty aggressively. I'm looking to see if price can do something similar again. So that is where my interest does lie. In terms of the 5-minute chart, this should be interesting. 5-minute chart, of course, we do have a pretty significant bullish trend, of course. We are pulling back into some nice areas of demand. I would say from a 5-minute perspective, buys actually look pretty good. Especially as price is creating this channel here. Just swept the lows out. I like the wicks to the downside here. That to me actually looks like a solid buy opportunity. At least a push back to resistance. There is a world where you do see a continuation back to highs. Yeah, this looks like a really corrective move down. So there is a world where this is just a big pullback, approaching like a nice area of demand. There is a potential we do see price continue back to highs and really take off. But I would say at least a push to this area, this kind of consolidation will make sense. You can book some partials there. If price can break through that, then you're looking really good. Maybe if price does find resistance there, maybe look to manage that trade, keep an eye out, we might come back down. But from a 5-minute perspective, this is where you want to take your entries. That would have been a nice entry candle there. You could still enter the trade, but it's a little bit late. Maybe if price was to come back down again, double bottom, that could be a nice entry as well. And some stops underneath the low here would make sense. And targets there. And then maybe you catch a breakout, we might continue. But it's not a bad opportunity there on the 5-minute, I have to suggest. On the higher time frame, I'm pretty bearish, so I'm looking for us to turn around. But from a 5-minute perspective, I think we're trading at a smart area. Of course, taking into account the trend, maybe you're not looking for the big continuation because of where we're trading, but I do think that's an area which we can bounce from on the 5-minute. Okay, Swiss Yen we'll take a look at next. Yes, I've looked at Pound USD, but we can quickly go through that for you, Michelle, no problem. Yes, Pound Aussie buys we can touch on, follow the trend, no problem. Okay, head and shoulder pattern on Swiss yen. Swiss is weak, Bank of Japan. Okay, we can take a look. Can we say this is the top for this pair? That's always a sticky situation, my friend. Trying to say something's at the top. The thing is, you can have a lot of reasons supporting why this could be a top or this could be a bottom of a market. But the funny thing is, price could always go higher, price could always go lower. Trying to predict tops is very, very difficult to do. Because the thing is, you could generally be right in terms of the reasons why this could be a top. Let's say the market's trending up. You could generally predict all the reasons why this could be a top. But price still might just fluctuate a few more times and then sell off. So technically you were right. It was more or less the top you did call. But from a trading perspective, if you had a stop loss above here, stop loss above there, you could have taken 2 losses and then maybe you're put off by the trading and then you missed the move. So from a trading perspective, it's difficult because there are still opportunities for price just to head a little bit higher to take your stop loss. You could take 3-4 losses potentially as price continues the trend. Then maybe you eventually are going to be right. Maybe you did have sufficient reasons to support the reason why this could be the top of the trend. And again, you could be right with that. But the timing of it is where the difficulty does lie. Because I would agree, Swiss yen is at all-time highs. I do think the top is likely to form. I'm not too sure if this is necessarily going to be the top. I wouldn't be too surprised, in all honesty, if price does create a couple more highs first before we do sell off, which is why I'm not necessarily trying to predict the top. But I would say we're close to it. If this is not the top, then maybe the next 1 or 2 swings is going to provide it. Because the market is very stretched. We haven't seen much of a pullback either. So there's a lot of reasons, technically, fundamentally, why we could see price look to turn around here. But when it comes to actually trading it, placing a trade, with a stop loss and a target, unless you're going to have a big kind of stop loss with a lot of room to play with, like the bigger players would do, us retail traders with stops just above the highs here, you're going to be asking for a lot of trouble. Price doesn't have to work too hard to go and take that stop loss and before it does turn around. And it could do that on a few occasions. So you got to be careful with those type of opportunities. Not to say that you can't try and predict tops and short the highs. You can do, but you just have to be quite considerate of the opportunity and of the situation you're in. If you're going to try and look to short highs, you don't want to be overstaying your welcome. Let's say if you do get into a trade and there's a nice push down, great. Let's see how that does go. Maybe momentum picks up and maybe you're looking really good. Maybe price starts to find support and starts to show some strength against you. Well, maybe it's time to start managing that trade, moving stops to break even maybe, or taking some partials, because if the trend wants to continue, the trend's going to continue, and more likely than not, that's probably going to be the outcome. So yeah, I do agree. A top is likely to form, but difficult to say. At the moment, I'm not really seeing the head and shoulder pattern you mentioned. Okay, 1 hour time frame from the 2nd of September. Okay, I see that. I see the head and shoulder pattern. So you're mentioning this left shoulder and that's the head. Yeah, I think that's I think it's quite aggressive. It could be a head and shoulder pattern. Just because it's aggressive doesn't mean it won't be. But I wouldn't necessarily look to bet on that because momentum is very much against me. Typically with head and shoulder patterns, I want them to be at fresh highs. So let's say if we've got a trend, I want it to be fresh highs, not so much coming into resistance here. So I'd rather this setup be over there rather than underneath resistance. So that for me is a little bit of a negative. Yes, price could see some downside here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we find support and just rally back to highs. I would say there's a greater chance that we do push back to resistance here than suddenly have a big sell-off. So short, this could be a nice place to take a short, but I wouldn't get my hopes up with a big move. I wouldn't get my hopes up. I think a short-term drop, yeah, we could see that. Prices likely to respect resistance. But I think we got a great chance to rally, then suddenly fall off. So be careful of that opportunity. We might see a push down, but I wouldn't bank on anything crazy. This momentum here, this relentless uptrend, higher highs and higher lows, is difficult to go against. Okay, so we'll take a look at pounds. we'll take a look at pound USD, then we'll go through pound Aussie next. Okay, you said you was bearish on pounds. Okay, 2.04. Top for a bullish market is super high. Yeah, of course, of course. Exactly. Good point. Follow the trend. Yeah, which is why tops is just really difficult to predict, and trying to predict them can be very difficult to do, and a lot of it is time wasting, really, because if you think about it from a retail perspective, our room for error is very, very slim. You know, not a lot of retail traders are going to have stop losses this big. Let's say your entries here, and let's say your stop losses all the way up there. You know, no one really in the retail space is really going to have stops like that. More so, the stops are relatively tight like this. So if you think about it, your room for error to call a top or call a bottom is only this wide. So you're going to have to be very, very precise to predict anything, really. Which is why pullbacks are normally the easier route to take, because trying to predict a pullback, a continuation of something, is a lot easier trying to predict the end of something, especially in a trending environment. So unless you have room to play with, you could catch that eventually, but you will find yourself in a situation, if you're trading with small stop losses, like I just mentioned, like these stop losses here, you could find yourself taking 2, 3, 4, 5, even more losers in a row before maybe you do eventually take the right direction. And then it comes just, does the win outweigh the loss? Well, if not, it's a losing game, really. Of course, there's ways around it. There are ways to catch reversals, but you've got to be very patient and very, very particular with not predicting, but picking your moments, really. Otherwise, it's a difficult business to be in. You mentioned the counter trend line break. I think that could be a smart decision. If you do see some strength below that, that will give you a bit more confidence that, okay, maybe this could be a head and shoulder pattern and we are seeing momentum below. So I would suggest that as a better confluence rather than trying to pick the highs here, which we could easily see price break through. Waiting for the break of the trend line would be a more sufficient, more confident entry to back up. Even so, we still, could do something like this, coming back to support and rally. So you still have to keep an eye on that. But that would be a safer entry. Because if price is going to respect the trend line and continue, at least you won't take any losers. If price is going to break the trend line, well, that's when you do start to get involved with opportunity. So I think that would be a smart move. But yeah, we'll take a look at pound USD, then go to pound Aussie. So as I mentioned with pound USD, I think the market is really, really flat. Really, really flat. So in terms of opportunities, I want to focus my efforts for pound at the highs here or at the lows. That's the only areas which I really want to get involved, especially from a 4-hour perspective. That's where I want to do my business. In the middle here is where I want to stay away. I did say from an intraday perspective, there might be some nice momentum on the way down because we did see a really nice clean move up. Here was really, really choppy and price was chaotic, so I would want to stay away from that. But this was a pretty clean move down. And sometimes when we do see a clean move up, price will sometimes make a similar move on the way back down. So there could be some nice shorts to take advantage of on the way down here intraday if you are looking at intraday opportunities. I did mention this area on the 15-minute chart. Perhaps if you can get a nice corrective pullback and some healthy rejection, this could end up being a nice place for a short and potentially another lower high. So that's something you could keep an eye on from an intraday point of view for pound USD. But for more of a swing point of view, this is where I want to find my opportunities at the high here, looking for shorts or looking for the breakout and then some pullbacks afterwards. Or of course, looking for a buy. Really nice opportunity here. A couple of weeks ago, really nice push down and really aggressive push up. That's kind of what I'm looking at the highs and at the lows. In the middle, personally, is where I want to stay away. But that's kind of my take there for pound USD. In terms of pound Aussie, this one's an interesting one. Still looking relatively bullish, but we are pushing right back to the low here. So if price is going to turn around, now's the time and place for pound Aussie. Now's the time and place. Because again, all we've been doing is ranging. And of course, sooner or later, price is going to break out this range. Sooner or later, price is just going to break out and we're going to pick a direction, whether it's going to be the break to the upside or the break to the downside. We'll find out in due time. If we are going to bounce here and continue the range, then this is where we should be looking to take our buys. This will put us in the best place possible and give us the best risk reward possible if we are going to see a swing to the opposing side of the range, or even halfway. You could still be looking at a decent move there as well. Don't even have to be looking for the full swing to walk away for decent profit there. But nonetheless, we are at a very interesting level now for pound Aussie. We did see a short-term buy here, but didn't really amount to much. So now this is where we keep an eye to see how price reacts. Again, as I said earlier, I quite like it when price does get to a low of the range, starts to kind of slow down, maybe even consolidate, and then give us some strength. Those are the type of entries I like. I don't really like taking entries where price just gets to low and just suddenly bounce, because I feel a bit more vulnerable there. I don't have a lot more confluence. Sometimes when we slow down, consolidate, maybe even manipulate the lows, that really does give me a nice edge to that entry into buying the low or selling the high of a range. Simply a bounce could, of course, provide a nice swing, but those are more type of the characteristics I look for when price does get to a low or high of the range. This is where I bought last time. We kind of had that as well. Nice consolidation, strong breakout. Doesn't mean it have to be as big as that, but that was the setup last time we were here, and did provide a nice swing. And that's something I would kind of look for in a similar manner at this area again. But yeah, in terms of location, I like where we're trading. There could be a nice bounce here. Of course, if we break through, we'll speak about that as well. In that case, I would be pretty bearish on pound Aussie if we do see a solid break, but only time will tell. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for pound Aussie as well. Spread on Aussie CAD is crazy. Yeah, it's not a great pair to intraday trade, Yusuf. You don't see a lot of people intraday trading Aussie CAD. Any Aussie pairs people intraday trading is like Aussie dollar, maybe Aussie yen potentially. Spread won't be amazing there either. Yeah, that's mostly it, to be fair. Mostly it. Other pairs, of course, the minor pairs, the spread won't be as good as the major pairs. So that's a big reason why people who intraday trade normally spend most of the time on the major currency pairs, everything with USD pretty much. But yeah, Aussie CAD's not great, especially if you're holding overnight, especially if you're holding during the daily rollover. At that point, you probably actually want to remove your stop loss altogether, because when the spread does widen, it can widen quite a lot, and it will probably knock your trade off. Even if you're on a bit of profit, it could still knock you off. So looking at actually taking your stop loss off during the rollover, then adding it back on when spreads become back to normal is a better situation. But yeah, spreads are not great. Spreads are not great. Yeah, I would wait for the trendline break. I think that would be a better opportunity overall. Okay, yeah, still seeing CHF being strong during these times of fear and recession. I agree. CPO, the next catalyst for the next move. Hopefully, I want to see another move, because we need that momentum. We need that that volatility. And that's really what I like the news for, because it provides that extra move. And as a retail trader, I'm looking to jump on the back of things. I'm not looking to start a wave. I'm looking to find waves and see how I can participate in those waves. But going into the rest of the week, it's already Thursday. The week's gone so quick. Going into the rest of the week, I do have a few pairs I'm looking at, but the pair I like the most is Aussie dollar, and that is Aussie dollar to the downside. It may not be a big move, it may be just a reaction that I do catch, but I really like the setup. I like where we're located, and I'm keeping a close eye. This, of course, will be in the firing line this afternoon with CPI. We'll see how dollar does react. And of course, that will have a say in terms of how things are looking technically. If we see a lot of dollar strength come into the market, well, that probably would give us a push lower. Maybe that becomes my entry. I don't want to be too big as well. I don't want to drift too far away from the highs. The closer I can get my entry to the high, the better. But the caveat to that, it does also need to be a good entry too. So it's not a situation where I just enter at the high. It's more so, okay, is there a good entry? Is it close to the high? Those are the things I'm looking for. And of course, if you do see USD weakness upon the news, well, I quite like the idea of that because we can push higher. And as long as price shows me that aggressive reaction and we still show rejection at the highs here, that's my signal to get into the trade with some nice entries, some nice stops above the high. And I could be in for a really nice move, at least back to these areas. And maybe if things go very well, back to 0.642, maybe even further than that. Because there is a slight uptrend, which is why it's slightly more of an aggressive trade. But the trend is really corrective. I'm not seeing any strength whatsoever. So taking shorts at the highs, although more of a risky trade, it's just the environment which makes it a little bit more plausible. You can see every time price does make a new high, we pretty much just revert back down again. I'm looking to see if that pattern can happen. And if you compare this to potentially like Swiss yen, which we looked at, a really aggressive trade, really aggressive trend. At least in this, the bigger picture, we are quite flat in general. You could argue there's a slight downtrend there. So I don't mind taking shorts off the high in these conditions. And Swiss yen, where we've got an aggressive trend, seeing all-time highs and pretty much all the major time frames, monthly, weekly, daily, are all pointing up. It's always going to be difficult to go against that. In this case, it's a bit easier. So yeah, I don't mind the shorts here at all. So keeping a close eye on Aussie dollar. This is the pair most likely to take a trade. Dollar CAD, I also like the shorts as well. It's funny because it does contradict my setup on Aussie dollar. Shorting dollar CAD and shorting Aussie dollar, there is a conflict of interest there. One is favoring dollar, one is not favoring dollar. As a technical trader, I'm not too bothered with that, but I would only take one of them. So if dollar CAD sets up well and things look good, Aussie dollar's not quite doing its part, then that's the trade I take. My plan is always to take a good trade. I want to look back over my trades and say, okay, yeah, that was a good position. That made sense. As long as I can say to myself that is the case, then I'm happy. If I look back at a trade, I'm like, why the hell did I take that position? Then of course we've got issues there. And for me, the setup with how everything is looking, dollar CAD looks good as well. So I'm gonna keep an eye on dollar CAD. I'm gonna keep an eye on Aussie dollar. See which one does present. Like I said, I'm not gonna take both because probably one will fail, one will work, and vice versa. I'd rather just take one and see that through. And yeah, we'll see what type of opportunities we can get there as well. But those are probably my favored USD pairs at the moment. Aussie dollar, dollar CAD, of course, both probably going to be reacting to the news, and we're going to see how price does provide some opportunities off the back of that. In terms of yen, I really do like CAD yen. CAD yen is my favorite yen pair as well, and that's a pair which I want to take some buys on. And I did mention this yesterday. I want to see price kind of push towards the low here. We are kind of rejecting. I like price to push a little bit deeper and then give me the opportunity. But more or less, this is the area which I want to take a buy in, get my entries again as close to that low as possible, but still, of course, entering on a positive candle, entering on a good entry before looking to buy. It's not a situation where I'm just trying to buy as close as possible because, for all I know, this level could break. But I like where we're trading. Altogether, we look to the left, strong area of demand in this zone as well. So the buys by default do make sense. And if we zoom out, we do have somewhat of an uptrend here. You could argue potentially start to phase out. We did break this counter trend line here as well, so that could be a bit more of a bearish tint on things, but we haven't really seen any convincing momentum from the bearish side of things. So I would still focus on the buys for now, and this pullback still looks really corrective to me and could be looking as a big kind of flag pattern, if you will. There looks a bit unorthodox, but again, the market's always just going to give you variations of the same thing. It's not always going to be textbook. So yeah, I'm looking for a convincing break of the low and a recovery, but this is the entry which I'm looking to take. And again, another reason why I like this, risk reward looks pretty good. This looks to me like a level which price is struggling at. If I can get a push back to that area, should be walking away with a decent profit on that position if the entry can look something similar to this. Hopefully nice 1 to 3, something like that. And maybe if things go very well, I might leave positions to run back to the high if the trend does continue. But I like what I'm seeing with CAD Yen longs. I like what I'm seeing with dollar CAD shorts. I like what I'm seeing for Aussie dollar shorts. I think those are my favorite 3 pairs. Yeah, those are my favorite 3 pairs. Yeah, at the moment, yeah. At least close to getting set up as well. I like Aussie CAD and some pullbacks too, but that's probably for next week. Maybe even the week after. It depends how long it takes for a pullback. But this is a really considerable move. I do think there's more upside for Aussie CAD. But I'm waiting for more like a staggered pullback, and that could take a week or 2 to develop on the 4-hour chart. So I'm not so much focused on this because today's already Thursday. This is not going to set up by Friday. But CAD Yen could set up, dollar CAD could set up, Aussie dollar could definitely set up as well. So those are the 3 I need to keep a close eye on. And again, for me, it's all about quality over quantity. There are some other pairs which are okay, which I could try and figure out a trade somewhere, somehow. But again, like I said, when you look back over your trades, you want to look back and say, okay, that's a good trade, that's a good trade, that's a good trade, that's a good trade. It might not necessarily be a win. It could be a losing streak, but if the technicals made sense at the time and it fits the plan well, you can look back with some positivity. Of course, maybe there's some tweaks to be made, but at least you can confidently say that's a good position. If you look back and you see bad trade, bad trade, bad trade, then yeah, there's a lot of work to do there then. All volume focused. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, Anton. No problem, follow the trend, happy to help. Doctor. Bearish engulfing candle. Okay, so you're looking for more of like a longer term bias here. Does the monthly chart have a bearish engulfing candle? Haven't looked at the monthly. Okay, so I'm guessing you're mentioning from July is the bearish engulfing candle you're mentioning. I mean, it hasn't really provided much momentum, so I'm not too sure how much significance it has to play, because ideally with a bearish or bullish engulfing candle, I'd want the next candles to see that momentum. We shot up straight away, which again, the pattern is still valid. As long as price doesn't break above the high, the pattern is still valid. But it hasn't come off to a good start. But yeah, there is a bearish engulfing candle, and I would agree the trend on the monthly chart is down as well. So that's definitely to factor in. But again, the thing about monthly trend, it's good to know what the monthly trend is, but it depends what time frame and what move you're looking to catch. If you're on like the 5-minute chart, then the monthly trend literally has almost no relevance to you at all, really. Of course, it would be nice to be in favor of the trend, but in the 5-minute chart, you can get a very established bullish trend in the meantime. And you can see that even on a daily chart as well. So unless you're kind of looking for a swing trade, which again could last maybe a month or 2, that's kind of the swing you're looking for if you really want to take into account the monthly trend. Of course, it's good to know, it's good to be in favor of it. It's a confluence, of course, but it's not going to provide much relevance if you're very intraday. For me, in the 4-hour chart, monthly trend, again, something I don't really consider too much, really. I'm also looking at the daily, maybe the weekly trend, maybe weekly momentum. Monthly is probably a step too far, but again, if I'm in favor of it, it's not going to be a negative for my trade, is it? So I'll happily be in favor of it. But if there was a good buy opportunity and it was against a monthly trend, as long as the higher time frame in respect to me, like a daily chart looks good, weekly chart looks good, I'm positioned well in the 4-hour chart, entries looking good, I'll still happily take that position. Hey, what's up, Malik? Welcome to the stream. I am doing good, hope you're well. Is it just the CPI news we have? No, we had ECB. Have we had the ECB, or is the ECB coming out? No, ECB is at 115. I mean, I'm not trading any euro pairs, so I'm not really too bothered. I'm looking at dollar CAD, I'm looking at Aussie dollar, and I'm looking at CAD yen. So I'm not really too bothered right now about euro. Of course, I'll keep an eye on it because maybe it does speed up the process of a setup forming on another euro pair, which I'm interested in. But not really interested in too many euro pairs at the moment, but might rustle some feathers. But yeah, I'm not too interested about the ECB right now. It's not really at in my focus right now. CPI, of course, is definitely. So 130, you keep an eye on that. No CAD news though, so that's good. So I'm looking to trade CAD yen and dollar CAD. So CAD is something I want to keep an eye on. How are we looking tomorrow? GDP for pound, Michigan consumer sentiment. So no more CAD news. Okay, but some more USD news tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, we'll see what CPI does. Again, I don't really necessarily have a bias going into it. Or at least I try not to have anyway, especially when I'm not in a position. I have the opportunities which I'm looking at. Shorts and Aussie, shorts and dollar CAD, longs and CAD yen. I've got the pairs which I want to see opportunities from. Now the plan is, can I go find some opportunities? If the news supports it, great. If the news goes against it, maybe I do step back from the trade altogether. Okay, nice. Still holding BTC buy. Looking to add another entry, 113, 186. Okay, 4 hour, nice. We'll take a look. Follow the trend. Yeah, I agree. It could be in due for a bit of a pullback. Euro pound's up, euro yen's been up, euro dollar's been up, euro CAD's been up, euro Swiss not really been up. I think Swiss has been a bit stronger, hasn't it? Yeah, I would say Swiss has been a bit stronger than euro, but everything else, yeah, euro's been up against CAD, dollar, pound. Euro Aussie's been up, Euro NZD's been up too. So yeah, euro has been on the stronger side of things. It might be time to switch things up a little bit, take a bit of a breather. But as I said, I'm not really concerned about any euro pairs right now. As for BTC, we did see some strength this morning, but I'm not quite convinced still because we are still looking quite corrective. I know we did break above some resistance, and that does have some significance, especially because the daily candle looks pretty strong, to be honest, as well. As we can see, significant resistance once, twice, and of course we've managed to see a really nice close above it. But that is essentially where price is broken above. So I do think BTC can still see more upside, but if I'm looking to buy myself, I'd rather try and buy around 107.358. Not so much because I expect price to get there. It's more so if price can get there, I think that would be a great place to find an entry, stick an entry there, and a stop loss below the low, and then we can see a push back to the high there. I think that would be a really nice target, 116.901. Of course, the highs would be like an end target or an end goal to work towards, but I think that would be a nice place to look, book some partials at least, or try and manage the trade some way. So for me, this is where I would try to find some entries. You're looking at 113, which I would imagine might be the break and retest of the resistance here on the 4-hour chart. 113, 186. Which is more or less this level here. So yeah, I think price can definitely bounce at that level. Of course, it was resistance yesterday, but price has now managed to trade above it. If we do bounce here and we continue the higher lows, then I would want price to kind of pick up some momentum, because if we continue to look really corrective, then I do think price will probably eventually sell off. We need to start to show some strength now. But yeah, 130 is not a bad place. Where would your stop loss be? Would it be underneath the low here, or underneath the level? I mean, there's no wrong answer there. I mean, underneath the level would allow you to get a better risk reward for the position. A stop loss underneath the lows here will give you a bit more room to play with. Both positives, but yeah, both come with negatives as well. Less risk reward with the low here, higher risk reward with that one over there as well. But yeah, I don't mind it. If price does stay above 113, I think that's a sensible place for a buy, with the expectation that momentum is going to pick up. But yeah, that's where I'd like to see if I can position myself long. Again, not so much because I expect price to get there. It's because if price does get there, I think naturally that'll be a nice buy. We very could easily pick up momentum and start flying now. It is BTC after all. This is still very much a bullish trend. Let's not forget that. You know, this could definitely continue at any point, really. BTC sell is good since it's forming weekly head and shoulder. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about the weekly head and shoulder. Are you talking about this height over there? So that left shoulder is now becoming a right shoulder. I'm not seeing a head and shoulder pattern on the weekly, to be honest. I mean, unless you're talking about this, then maybe, but I think that's a big reach. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about BTC sells, to be honest. I wouldn't want to be a seller of the market. I wouldn't want to be a seller. I'm not quite seeing that head and shoulder pattern, especially after the strength we're seeing as well this morning, and the fact that we're breaking above this level. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be a seller of BTC. I can see potentially the idea you're looking at the head and shoulder, but I'm not quite convinced just yet. And also, you want to be extra careful when you are looking for reversal patterns for Bitcoin, because more often than not, it does continue. For me, this is still very much bullish, and I quite like what I'm seeing with other cryptocurrencies as well. Ethereum looks pretty good as well. The way Ethereum's kind of rounding off, I quite like the look of it. And if you look at the higher time frames, Ethereum is still respecting very key structure. You've got resistance there, 4K, price is still holding above that really, really well. And I do think as long as price stays above 4K, we're likely to rally. So in general, I do have a bit of a bullish bias for cryptocurrencies at the moment. BTC and Ethereum normally leaders. If they start trending bullish, normally other smaller cryptocurrencies will follow behind it. But you can see these are really aggressive wicks prices being put into the downside. I think that's definitely something to take note of. And the fact that we're really starting to round off now. I think if you can see a break of resistance here, that's what's going to be the catalyst to get us flying. And maybe a BTC can follow suit as well, the other way around actually, and see a push back to highs at least. And we'll go from there. And XRP, I think, is another one which is getting ready for potentially a bit of an explosion. Looking at the higher time frames, looking at price respecting the lows here really well. I do think this is going to be, a bit of another one of these ones for price to rally. So market structure, I think, is still very bullish. And if BTC does see that continuation, the smaller ones will follow suit. But yeah, in terms of entry, I still like it if we can push down to these lows. Forming heads and won't rule out until this weekly close. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if the weekly does close above, okay. we could still potentially pull back. I mean, I'm not convinced. I like my head and shoulders when price would make a move to the low, or at least close to the neckline. Then that would kind of be your more textbook setup of a head and shoulder. And of course, that will be your neckline. Then you're looking either to call the right shoulder or the break of the neckline, then opportunities below it. You know, this could easily just be another pullback, potentially a break and retest for price to continue the trend, because this bearish leg isn't that convincing. So yeah, that would be my critique of it. But of course, you know, waiting for the weekly to close above that level would justify definitely that head and shoulders probably not going to play out. But even with this bearish move, it didn't really have a lot of force behind it. It was really corrective. So that's a bit of a red flag. My take is always I give benefit of the doubt to the trend, especially in a market like BTC, or especially like an index. FX, you can be a little bit more lenient because things do chop around a lot. But I'm always going to be a bit more lenient, a bit more flexible with a bullish market, with a trending market like BTC, and always be a bit more skeptical of the selling opportunities and be a little bit more aggressive with the buying opportunities, because of course that's just the nature of the market. If you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, you know, if you're just a continuous buyer of Bitcoin right now, looking to buy pullbacks, of course there will be times where you would have lost some money, but for the most part you're looking really good just buying the pullbacks, pretty much ignoring the selling opportunities. So always giving the benefit of the doubt to the buying opportunities in the market like this makes sense. Yes, there will be times for selling, there will be times for really good opportunities to sell, but I'm never too quick to change my bias from bullish to bearish in this environment. And same goes for like an S&P, same thing goes for like a NAS. If it's like Euro, then that's different. We chop around a lot. You do want to be flexible in terms of changing that bias. Even if you are wrong with the bias, you probably can still catch a decent chunk, because you see deep pullbacks, you see deeper corrections, you see more counter trends. So even if you are wrong with the bias in FX, there's probably still a decent move to take advantage of. But in a market like this, the bias is really where it's at. So you want to be a bit more lenient with the buys and a little bit more disciplined with the selling opportunities, because they are tough to come by. At least that's my thought process with it. Hey, what's up, Lighton? Better late than ever, of course. Hope you're doing good. What is up? What is up? Lighton, kindly recap Aussie, Euro. Okay, we can take a look, no problem. Aussie dollar is at the top of my watch list at the moment. I'm looking for some sells on this guy, but I think I will wait till after CPI has done its business before I do look for entries. I mean, I will have to anyway, because this next 4-hour candle will close in 2 hours and 20 minutes, which will take us to after the news anyway. So I don't really have to do too much then, but I am looking to short. This is my area of interest, and I'm very much just keeping a close eye to see how we operate in this area. I'm liking how we're seeing wicks. I'm liking how we're slowing down, becoming a bit more corrective. I'm basically looking to see if maybe we can have one more push to the upside and then get the sell. Maybe if CPI can give us that flush, take out some highs, take out some maybe some early sellers, and then we redeem it. That would be something that would really fit my plan very, very well. But I'm looking to short. You know, price is operating at major resistance, so by default, you know, you're looking to short anyway. But judging how price is moving, we've got a very tired uptrend, and every time price does take out a high, we do tend to have a bit of a correction, and that has been a consistent theme for Aussie dollar for the past few months now. Every time price will create a high, we'll pull back. High, we'll pull back. High, pull back. High, pull back. High, pull back. And I'm looking basically for that pattern to happen again. New high, pull back. And since we're becoming a bit more tired now, this could turn into not necessarily a pullback, but reversal, maybe a big double top pattern. And if you look at the larger, higher time frame structure, we are kind of bearish. So that does play a role into it, but at the very least we're flat, which is good, because that means resistance and support will have a bit more weighting and more likely to react. But in terms of where we're trading right now, I think we're really at the best place for that short to come into play. This level didn't really provide too much resistance. We did see a nice reaction last week, but you know, price did eventually break through. Now we're back at highs. This is an area where I do like the sells. So keeping a close eye, not quite there yet with the entries, which is why I'm not in the trade. And of course, with CPI coming out, I think entering after CPI, especially at such a critical area like this, where we could see early sellers, kind of swept away before the push. If CPI does give us a bullish dollar and price does start to see some strength, then that could then set up the entry itself as well. Have to be a bit careful with that. I don't want to be too far down, but that's where the focus is. And in terms of New Zealand dollar as well, we're getting a similar vibe there. Of course, New Zealand dollar is still in bearish structure right now. We're still seeing lower lows and lower highs. And we did get the break of this channel, but it looks like that hasn't necessarily led to the reversal. And that's the thing with descending, ascending channels. They're more like reference points rather than significant tools to suggest trend reversals. Although some people do swear by them, I'm more so focused on market structure. If price breaks structure, that's what I view as a trend reversal. Even that has its flaws as well, but that's more trustworthy, at least for me anyway. So because price hasn't broken structure yet, there is still a world where this breakout we have saw from the channel, is potentially just a fake out. Maybe price has just faked the high and then it will redeem itself. Again, fake outs are nothing new to the market as well. So that could be the situation. So I would suggest for New Zealand dollar, if this is the fake out, if price is generally forming a lower high, what I would like to see is a convincing break lower, a convincing close lower. That there would tell me that, okay, this is still just a pullback and we are forming a lower high. We are trading in a nice area of demand, supply in general anyway. So it makes sense in terms of where we're located. Now we need to see an entry to support that bias. And then at the very least, push towards these areas will make for a healthy target. Maybe we do bounce, maybe we do see another higher low. That would be the first place to kind of manage the trade. Or maybe price does melt, breaks the counter trend line, comes back to lows, and maybe we just see this trend just continue, which again is still very much a possibility. So New Zealand dollar in an interesting area. Again, New Zealand, Aussie, both very similar markets. So it's interesting that they're both kind of in selling territories. Aussie dollar at major resistance, New Zealand dollar coming to this area of supply. Both kind of waiting for confirmations, not quite sold on either short just yet. But I do really like Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar looks okay, but I like what I'm seeing with Aussie dollar a lot more. So that's what my focus is right now. But if you're keeping an eye on this, I would suggest maybe a strong break of that support, and that will give you the green light for the short. So yeah, that's kind of my take on Aussie and New Zealand. And we'll go through Euro Pound next as well. Be nice on some early birds, right? I know. The thing is, there is that famous quote that the early bird gets the worm, which in most areas of life is probably true. But I think with trading, I don't think that's always true with trading. Sometimes the first person in the market is the best, but for us retail traders, we don't really want to be the first person because we don't have much strength in the market. We don't have much of a leg to stand on. We're trading with small positions, relative to the institutions, with tiny stop losses, looking for tiny pips. We want to be the second or third bird, really. You don't want to be the late bird either, but you want to be, second or third, really. And there's the saying that the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. And I think that is really relevant to trading because I think the first mouse, the first person to the market gets the trap, and the second person, or maybe the one after that, actually takes advantage of the move. And that's where we want to be placed. Malik, looking for a short at New Zealand dollar. Okay, we'll take a look. The rest, the retest of 0.591. 591. Where is that? Okay, I was looking at 8. 591. Okay, so that's the low around there. So you're looking for price to break below and then short, I suppose. So if price can do this and that, I'm guessing that's what you're referring to, which is basically what we just mentioned as well. I mean, there's two ways to go about it. You can either shorten the break and maybe have some stops above the high here. Of course, that would give you the most room to play with, but in terms of risk to reward, might not give you the best case for that. But it will give you a bit more room to play with. If you try and look for the retest here, well, it means you can really maximize your risk to reward because you look for the retest, your entries will be somewhere in that area, maybe stops above the level. So, you know, instead of maybe this being like a 1 to 3, this is like a 1 to 6, 7 potentially. Or you don't necessarily have to push the trade as far back to these areas and you still walk away for healthy profit. So that is a benefit, of course. The negative with this is that you won't have as much room to play with. So if price does fluctuate a little bit, maybe a bit more prone to getting stopped out. But if it does play out, you're looking good. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, that's essentially what we were just mentioning before. So we're on the same page with that. With these ideas means you're back in dollar strength. It looks like it, Malik. I mean, I'm still not kind of feeling the dollar right now, but I will take a look at Euro Pound, by the way, Lighton. I haven't forgot. Well, I did forget, but I just remembered now. Yeah, it looks like the DXY to me is respecting demand on the left here, and looks like price has now come back for the retest, which happened yesterday afternoon. Because I said I wasn't too sure about this fake out really, but it's ticking boxes. I can't lie. Price is now firmly above the range low, retested it well, and now we're seeing fresh highs past resistance. So, if anything, that is a bullish signal, is a bullish setup. We are seeing, you know, bullish market structure starting to print here. So I can't be bearish for dollar right now. We're back in the range, still respecting demand to our left. Yeah, I wanted the price to break out and then continue. That was the setup I envisioned coming into the week. But we got the breakout, but it recovered, and that would be a bullish setup. So yeah, I am hinting towards to more of a bullish bias for the dollar. It looks like DXY is giving us that. And I'm seeing opportunities that favor that on some USD majors too. So I guess that's where I'm leaning. Still not totally convinced, to be honest, but I quite like the Aussie dollar shorts, just kind of exclusively looking at that pair alone. I like the shorts, same with New Zealand dollar, although I do like Aussie a little bit more. I'm still looking to short dollar CAD though, which is a weird one because it does go against my bias there. But yeah, I am favoring at the moment some more USD. I'm kind of waiting for CPI as well. I think CPI will provide some light. You know, if we do see CPI provide strength and price does rush to the upside, then yeah, we're probably just going to continue to the high of the range. If we do start melting out the sky, then of course that would change everything. I'll go take a look at Euro Pound next. Oh, you're looking for a long, Malik. Okay, I thought you were shorting. Okay, that makes sense. So you're looking to long on the retest of that level. Well, yeah, then we have an opposing opinion on NZD. I mean, if you are looking to buy, that would be a smart place for it, the retest of this level here. And you do have some demand there, zone. But I'm not quite convinced just because of how corrective we've been and the fact that we've got that lower high here just persisting. We could see that lower high form and price push lower. So I'm not the biggest fan of the buys. I'd rather, if I was looking to buy New Zealand dollar, I'd rather wait for price to have another big sell-off. So another one of these moves down and then look for some buys closer to this area. Because this is where the market's forming higher lows. So by default, I'm closer to the buys. I'm closer to, you know, where structure's forming. And if I can catch a low here, not only am I better position, better risk rewards, and I just will feel a lot safer down here. Not that the break and retest won't work. It's just because of where we're trading and the lower highs we're dealing with. You know, if we are going to form a lower high, this would be the spot for it. This would be the spot for it. Of course, we may not form a lower high, but if we are, this is the spot for it. So you're buying fairly close into some resistance and supply. Not that we can't bounce, just that if I was bullish, I would be looking to get involved lower down. You know, closer to trend lines, closer to areas of demand here. I just feel we're a bit safer down there. So that would be my opportunity if I was looking to buy. Of course, the break and retest could play out, but I would worry how close I am into all that noise. Unless you may be looking for like a short-term move. Euro pound, so yeah, more downside, pushing down, still very, very choppy, so still not a fan favorite of Euro pound at the moment, but nonetheless, this still looks like a really healthy place for a buy to me. If price can get here, show some rejection, I think we can at least catch a bit of a bounce. I'm not betting on a continuation. I do think Euro pound is forming some type of top here. I do think price is slowing down, kind of around the bottom here. We've gone from making around the bottom, around the top, I mean. We've gone from making higher highs to now lower highs and kind of getting that rounded shape. And this, of course, is the support level, which if it does break, should open the floodgates and should allow us to maybe come back to support all the way down here. So I quite like the opportunities here for maybe a break and retest or some pullbacks along the way. I think that can present some really nice opportunities to short Euro pound from. On the other hand, there might be some short-term buys. This is still a key level, and we may not break it. We may not break it straight away. Price might bounce first and chop around first, and there could be some nice intraday buys to take advantage of. But that is the sell opportunity, which I do like for Euro pound. So until we do that, I'm not so interested in myself. But again, I wouldn't advise to look to trade in these areas. This is where a lot of congestion is. There might be some break and retest opportunities here, but I'm personally not quite convinced. Not on the break and retest itself, just because of where we're located and how choppy things are. I think this is an area where you could probably catch some fluctuations, some random wicks. It is Euro pound, which is choppy regardless. But in these conditions, it's going to be even more choppy. So I'll wait for support, to be honest. So yeah, that's kind of my take on Euro pound. DXY should have a direction of CPI. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. Cease integrated. Okay, King's Trade. No need to spam the chat, please. If you keep spamming, I will just remove you. Do you hold crypto? I do hold a little bit of XRP. But I'm actually looking to trade crypto now, a bit more exclusively rather than just holding. Looking to trade a bit more BTC, trade a bit more Ethereum, trade XRP as well, maybe some smaller cryptocurrencies too. But I think I'll start with those few. Okay, Lebsy, yeah, I can take a look at the 15 as well. Reason there was a break of the 4-hour trend. Okay, yeah, break of the 4-hour trend line. Still don't believe the XY can fully reserve given talks of rate cuts. True, good point as well, Malik. Good point as well. What is the sell based on? It's based on vibes. Fairly short-term move. Okay, yeah. Like I say, if you're looking for a short-term move, you can get away with it. I just wouldn't be looking for a big swing because of all that resistance above us. So that would put me off. But if you're looking for a short-term, especially intraday position, you can get away with that. But yeah, Lebsy, in terms of 50-minute for Euro pound, that's where it gets nitty and gritty. I'm not too sure if I want to spend too long down at these depths of Euro pound, really, because things get really choppy here. If I was looking for a trade on Euro pound, I probably would have a short bias because that's where momentum is right now. And I would try and position myself as close to this high as possible, some stops above the high. So if price was to push back up to resistance, maybe wick through a little bit, reject it, that could be a nice trade, stops above the high. I'll probably be paying attention to the higher lows price is creating, so I wouldn't necessarily just bet on a push straight to lows. I'll probably bet on a push to the trend line initially, then see how price does react. If things look like they're going to put another higher low again, then I do run into the trouble that price might do this. Of course, we smash straight through the trend line, we're looking good. Hopefully you can hold back to lows. But I would have a bearish bias. We are seeing momentum down, and I wouldn't try and bet against that. So if you can position well against resistance, we've seen this act as resistance numerous times. That's where I want to do my business. But yeah, I would be quite cautious of that counter trend line there. But yeah, really choppy stuff. 15-minute Euro pound can get extremely choppy. Okay, fib 38.2. Yeah, I mean, there's a good confluences, Malik. I'm not suggesting otherwise. It's just that resistance what give me the heebie-jeebies. Price could very much break through that level with ease potentially. Maybe CPI gives us a nice added boost, or it could be something else. It's just that's the confluence which does scare me, which is that supply zone. Because typically when I'm looking to buy the market, my default setting is buying in these areas, so relatively close to the lows of the market. It doesn't have to be the trend line low necessarily, but as long as I'm buying here, and then this area here is where I'm selling if I'm wanting to go against the trend. This is buy, this is sell, and where the entry was, which you mentioned, was more so in this area, which is why I'm a little bit more cautious. And of course, we do have supply in that area too, which is a slight red flag. But of course, price can definitely break through that potentially. And if you're looking for a short-term move, you should be able to catch one because it is a significant support. And of course, there's more to the story than that as well. But based on location, yeah, that's just where I'm not the biggest fan of. That chart gives me anxiety. When I go back to Morocco for good? Well, firstly, I've never been to Morocco, so I'm not too sure about that. No problem, Lebsy. Happy to help. Any predictions for CPI? No, not really. To be honest, I'm just kind of staying neutral. I'm looking to short Aussie dollar, so CPI just needs to do whatever it wants, but as long as it gives me a good short on Aussie dollar, I'm happy. Or, of course, if it's just going to break to the upside and I can miss out on a losing position, that'll be good as well. But I want a good opportunity to short Aussie dollar, so I'm looking for some strength from USD. It looks like we're supporting the low of the channel as well, so it looks like potentially could be seeing some strength. But this is, again, all speculation. I'm not suggesting go and look to buy the dollar, but that's kind of what my initial thoughts are. But I'm very much neutral. I'm not in any position, so I don't really have any what's the saying, any skin in the game, so I don't really mind too much what USD does. All I want to see is what happens, and then that's the time I do my analysis and really read the market for any opportunities really. So that's really where my thoughts are with dollar and CPI at the moment. Yeah, probably actually. To be fair, if he did keep spamming the chat, I would have just blocked him from the channel, to be honest. He did 3. I was looking for that 4th. He didn't quite get the 4th, to be honest, so he's a lucky guy or a lucky bot, I'm not too sure. But the 4th one came in. That'll be goodbye. Yeah, again, you're not going to be right all the time. As long as you manage risk, that's the important thing. So it's integrated. CPI goes against you. As long as the risk is managed, it goes against you. If it's for you, well, happy days. Yeah, I hope so. Hope so, Lauren. I'm looking for some shorts in Aussie dollar. Hope so. That's my main focus. I also like CAD yen buys as well. I'm gonna definitely keep an eye on that for the rest of the week. I'm looking for a buy at the lows here, and then some targets back at the high, but not quite there yet. Looking a tad bullish now, so hopefully we don't rally. Hopefully we do come back down, but I don't have much say in that, so I'm just going to stay on the sidelines and hope we do see a push down, and then hope I do get entry for that, and I'll keep an eye on dollar CAD as well. What's the most trade you lost in a row? Well, if you go historically, it could be more than 10, back in the early days easily. But probably more recent days, 6, 7. And that's more so kind of getting a bit emotional, out of tune with the market, taking some entries you shouldn't take, or I shouldn't take. But if you're talking all time, definitely more than 10. But anyway, guys, we have reached the end of the stream. hopefully we do see some awesome moves from CPI, and may the markets be with you, of course. But we'll be live. Actually, we'll be live again later today on Trader Nick's channel, actually. So we'll see the aftermath of the CPI news on his channel. I'll be live around 2:30 UK time. So time would have passed since the news there as well. I may already be in a position or may not. I'll let you guys know on his stream later today. If you're not available, no need to worry. I will be live again tomorrow as always. Which will be live from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. UK time. So if you're free, pop in, come say hi. If you have enjoyed today's stream, guys, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It does really help out. I do really appreciate it. And of course, hit the bell too so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Share it with your friends. And if you do want to support the channel further, there are memberships to the channel with added perks, members only videos. So if you do want to support the channel, check it out if you haven't done so already. But guys, I do really appreciate you tuning in. Have a good day. Like I said, if I see you later today, great. I'll see you on Nick's channel. If not, I'll see you tomorrow as always. But appreciate it, guys. Drop a like before you leave. Take care. I'll see you all in the next one.
Six AI agents, each built with a unique edge. Miko, AI, Team Leader. Ori AI, Fundamental Analyst. Exi, AI, Technical Analyst. Mesa, AI, Risk Management Specialist. Fenwa, AI Market Sentiment Analyst. And Naledi AI, the cryptocurrency expert. Together, they're engineered to protect, guide, and transform your trading. The future of trading is here. Experience Zentrix AI